Hello, everyone. I'm Judge Desire for Knowledge, and you are watching Know Your Truth Real Talk with me, where we talk and discuss things of empowerment and self improvement. Please go like and share and click on the notification bell just so that others that aren't aware of this channel can become aware of it. It's free, and share, like, and subscribe as I stated. I'm so sorry this weekend I am taping instead of going live. I will be going live on my around and about, because that's what I'm going to be doing. About and around. I will be traveling, not traveling, but I will be on the road this weekend, and I will film it and post some on my social media channels as well as YouTube. And so check that out later this weekend, starting today, later on. And I hope you enjoy that, because I like to share them with you. Not everywhere I go, but I like to share the fact that other things are out there, and other events and people that like to share their thoughts and opinions of things to me, and then I put it in my show. I don't usually put people on the screen because sometimes people do not like that. So I decided that this week on this taped show with Know Your Truth Real Talk, that I will discuss about nosy neighbors, and if you know one, and if you do know one or you don't, I'm going to have a list of at least 10 not ideas, but 10 questions to see if you know a nosy neighbor, or are you a nosy neighbor. So out of the 10, I believe if you got 5 right, then, or over 5 I should say, then you are a nosy neighbor, or you know one. All right, how about that? We'll do that. All right. So on this episode, as I stated, we'll talk about nosy neighbors you've had over the years or during your lifetime. I'm not sure a lot of people have moved. If you haven't moved, you always had a nosy neighbor or someone close to it who was more concerned about what you or your other neighbors were up to, and what's happening and going on, and than what's happening and going on in their own lives. So they don't pay attention to what's going around in the neighborhood, security or anything. They're more worried about you. Have you ever seen any like that in your neighborhood? Well, we'll discuss it today. Let me just tell you a story about a particular one I know, a story about a nosy neighbor. I'm not going to say whose nosy neighbor it is. It's just the story content. And I never tell people who, what, where, and why. I just go with self-experiences. And yes, these are real life stories when I tell you, and life experiences that either I know of other people that went through, or myself. And I will tell you when I said that I've been there. So while I'm discussing other people, I'm not going to say who they are. I'm outside in this beautiful sun. It's hot, and my cameras go light when it gets bright, or dark when it gets bright. So I'm sorry for any of my camera's problems right now. I gotta find me a camera instead of this computer camera. So either way, like I said, some people are more encouraged by knowing about what's going on with you in your life than the security around your neighborhood, your block, or whatever you want to call it, your community. So let me tell you this story. There was a neighbor, who strolled the neighborhoods looking for people he could, get nosy with, right? So is what I was told by this person and the people that I know. Whether they're neighbors or not, I am not going to tell you. I'm not sure if they're watching this show, but you'll know who you are if you are. I'm pretty sure they don't, but either way, because I do not disclose things with names and stuff, so they probably won't get it. But either way, so I was told they would stroll around to make friends with any of the neighbors that they can, so that they can lounge around their houses and backyards to eat and drink their food. Now, if you have those kinds of neighbors, they come to the picnic without being announced, or your holiday, summer stuff you do in your backyard or your front deck or wherever you live, whatever the case may be, or at your house they show up and knock the door if they hear music, these type of neighbors. This particular neighbor that though wouldn't let this guy in, and not chose to be, wouldn't let him use them, and chose not to really indulge with this neighbor, and not become too friendly with him, because the nosy neighbor always saw, they always saw the nosy neighbor's car. So the neighbor, known to, he was skeptical about this neighbor, the nosy neighbor. I'll call him the nosy neighbor. So the neighbor was skeptical about the nosy neighbor, and he always saw his car patrolling the neighborhoods, but not patrolling it for security reasons. He would drive down the road and slowly looking aimlessly for anyone that was outside, so he can indulge in speaking or talking or gossiping, which is not a good thing anyway, or on, if he saw them on their decks, as I stated, or backyards. He'll actually walk up to the property if he hears the music, and he'd come uninvited. The neighbors started wondering, why was he slowly patrolling every day in the neighborhood, Like, do you have anything else better to do? Like, you see this guy and he's always in his truck every day. And so what the neighbor did was, oh, okay, I'm sorry. Tried to keep notes because this is about something, the story I was told. So the neighbor started wondering, why was he slowly patrolling every day in the neighborhood? Come to find out, he recently retired from his job, the nosy neighbor, and probably had nothing better to do. However, one day, a neighbor put on a new metal roof and decided to build and renovate their front and back decks. So mind you, these were the neighbors who chose not to engage with this particular strange and nosy neighbor, okay? So as we're speaking about that, the story goes on to state, on the day they started renovations, an inspector out of the blue showed up with a stop order of work on the contractors for building the deck. The front and back decks. This is people's dreams. They want to renovate, they want to put up their stuff, and then some nosy neighbor who probably has nothing going on, has no money, and even if they do have money, they want their house to look the best in the neighborhood, so they do these kind of farces so that they can stop you from getting yours. And some people don't care about that. They just want to have the comfort of their home to entertain their family and friends. It's not about competition for them, but some neighbors, it is competitive. So this neighbor particularly, from what I was told, showed up with a stop order, had the inspector show up, who put a stop order on the workers from working on the deck, the front and back deck, okay? The roof was already done and was in order already. So come to find out, it was the nosy neighbor who called the building inspector, on the neighbor. And that's sad because, see, you want to play like you're a neighbor and you're really not. So he was found lurking on their cameras. They went to go see what was going on and who would have called, because you can't just come and say, oh, I saw this happening. It had to be someone, a neighbor or someone that's seen that this renovation was being done and speculated that it wouldn't have building permits attached to it. Whether or not it did, this stopped the function, because the neighbors were not building the deck. They had taken it down to get their zoning stuff done and have beams put in to get the decks secured before putting them up. So in all matters is they didn't need the permit, but this nosy neighbor went out his way to make sure that he had gotten it stopped, and he certainly did, because they had not attained the building permits or the zoning permits for the building, because building the decks, because they weren't building the decks yet. You see how nosy neighbors are and how they put you through a lot of stuff if you don't catch on right away. And this is the same nosy neighbor that the neighbors actually decided not to allow into their business. They gave him a little hello, how you doing, but they weren't really into why he was like stalking the neighborhood. So this is the same one that called the inspector on them. And how they found out was they went to their cameras because they have the ring and they have all angles. And this guy was actually seen on camera with the workers thinking that they were family members, that he was a family member and not a neighbor or nosy neighbor. So he came up to the contractors, was looking at everything and peeking at everything, and no, but unbeknownst to the contractors, they didn't know that this guy was not a part of the family. They're there doing their job. So the cameras actually picked it up, all right? And that was the evidence for the neighbor to see who actually did it, all right? So if that's not bad enough, neighbor, that's nosy, patrolling your neighborhood every day, you got to be careful of those kind. Basically, especially those that no longer have anything to do, don't work. I don't want to say that about retirement people because, you know, God bless them, they were able to retire. But if this is what you take up after you retire, then go back to work, please, because we don't want those kind of people here. Please look out for danger and security and robberies, but we don't know if there was robberies there a lot or anything because I didn't ask questions. But I do know basically it's not a neighborhood that would have that. That's why it seemed weird that this guy that lives there is actually patrolling it, because everyone carries guns there and you're allowed to. So every neighbor has a gun. So there's no need, you know, to worry about patrolling the neighborhood. And everybody has cameras. So this doesn't happen in the neighborhood from what I'm told. All right. And so basically these inspectors came in on the day they started, of course, and found out that the nosy neighbor was lurking around by the contractors earlier, and work was put to a complete stop because he went and called them. So if you find a nosy neighbor, keep a lookout as to what their intentions really are. If you do these things, you are a nosy neighbor. Because I just wanted to start before I label people as a nosy neighbor, or maybe people you know are one of these on the 10 questions that you find maybe something that relates to someone or yourself. I just wanted to say that this person actually retired from corrections, and I think that this person never actually got over himself and the job and losing his power, because when you're in power positions, then you feel like you run the whole neighborhood. Or if you're a retired, whatever the title may be, because I'm not going to put down people because I'm in one of those government positions as well. But this one was corrections, not the courts. And the guy actually was retired maybe 2-3 years. I'm not sure. But they said recently, but he's gotten really out of hand with the stalking the neighborhood thing, because at least he had time on his hands before to go to work, come back home, and be too tired to actually be in everyone's business. But now that he's retired, he's found himself to be the snake of the neighborhood. So from what I'm told, everyone's on the lookout for him now. And basically he's going to actually be alone, because that's not nice. We build people up in our neighborhoods. We don't destroy. And I believe that's what we all need to do in our neighborhoods, is build each other up and not tear each other down. What he did was tear other neighbors down so that they don't have what he would have wished he had, because I don't know what he has, or the competition. We don't know. We just know that he did what he did, and that's it. You know, so he spends his time now wrecking and destroying other lives. So indirectly, of course, because no one knows it's him. But now that he's been found out, because they know, they've told everyone in the neighborhood to be wary about him. All right. So this is the 10 things that you do if you are a nosy neighbor. So I'm not saying you. If you know someone and you go past 5 checks on this checklist, then you're either a nosy neighbor or someone you know is. Okay, number 1, you peek out of your windows to see what your neighbors are doing. You are a nosy neighbor. Now, we're not talking about help with protecting our neighbors and everything. We're talking about people that don't protect the neighbors. They're just nosy, okay? Number two, and they wouldn't call the police because they call it snitch. So you're not being looking out for anyone. You're looking out for yourself because you're nosy. Number two, if your daily routine is to question everything about your neighbor and what your neighbor does, you are a nosy neighbor. Yep. If your daily routine, whether you're retired or you're off that weekend on vacation and you utilize your vacation or your retirement to do this, if your daily routine is to question everyone in your neighborhood about their business and what's going on and not really have their good intentions for them, you are a nosy neighbor. And if you show, number three, if you show up uninvited to a neighbor's house, you are a nosy neighbor. Why are you there? Why did you come? You wasn't told that you had an invite. You don't just bring yourself to someone's home. One thing I have to state, I don't like anyone showing up at my home without me inviting them. And I don't like people that says, oh, I'm going to come to your house. I've had people like that. And I'm like, no, you're not. I didn't invite you because you can't invite anyone and everyone into your home. You don't know what energies you're allowing in through your doors, and some people don't take that seriously. I do. So I do not, unless I've asked you to come, don't, unless you're family and even some of them. And I haven't asked you, there's a reason why, whether it's friends or family. And if I never ask you, there's a reason why. And wait until someone asks you. How about that? Yeah. Don't just indulge in, oh, well, I'm coming over to your house one day. No, you're not, actually. Maybe I just like you as a colleague and you're not an actual friend. Everybody has a different status for everybody, but some people want to put it more to be nosy and see what you got going on in your house. So that is one that I realized. Uninvited guests are not welcomed here and anywhere. At other neighbors, it's very rude. Wait to be invited. If it comes up in a discussion and someone invites you, then you're invited, okay? Number four, if you look out of your windows or peek or your peek hole for anything other than security purposes, you are a nosy neighbor. Number five, if you do meet a neighbor with other intentions than being true a true neighbor to you, then you are a nosy neighbor. In other words, if you meet a neighbor, and because neighbors are going to meet, and that's where you're going to know if you want to continue to be friends with this neighbor or you just want to leave it at that. But if your intentions is to get into friendship, to get into their home, to find out what they're doing, or to notice their business, then who's this on the property? Then basically you are a nosy neighbor. Well, maybe I have a nosy neighbor too. Actually, number six, if you act like you are interested in knowing your neighbor, but your intentions is to get information, just like I just said, from them, you are a nosy neighbor. Did I duplicate that? I may have. I'm sorry if I did. It sounds the same, but one is with intentions and the other one is your interests on knowing about a neighbor and what they're doing in their home, in their lives, or whatever. Number seven, if you are on your porch to see when your neighbor comes home, or what they're discussing, or who's coming into their home, you are a nosy neighbor because it's not your business who's coming into their home. And another one is I'm on number 8 now. If you watch your neighbor or neighbors with binoculars or through your window with binoculars constantly, or just looking through the window constantly, as I stated in the last number 7, you're a nosy neighbor, which is actually deemed an invasion of their privacy. So be very careful how long, and especially with binoculars, that you watch people, because that's an invasion on someone's privacy, and they, if with proof, can get a court order on you to stop. Number 9, if your intention is to be friendly to your neighbor, to get into their business, I think I said that before as well. I'm sorry if I repeated this. But I mean, as far as, let's say that the business is you work a great job and they want to know where it is and how that is. It's personal business. It could be work, business, it could be anything. So look at it like that. Um, Basically, you're not interested in knowing how the person is doing. You want to more or less know what their position is, how much they make, those kinds of things. Then you are a nosy neighbor, because no one needs to tell you how much their yearly income is, and you're just neighbors. You're not friends yet. These kind of questionings, we need to be really careful when we tell people our business. Um, because a lot of people use it against you, sometimes in the court of law, because I've seen it there as well. And number 10, the final checkoff. If this is you or someone else that's a nosy neighbor, you'll know by this one. If you file false reports about your neighbor, you are a nosy neighbor. Why else would you be doing that if you wasn't nosy? You don't file false reports. They can come back and haunt you and the people that actually didn't know that they were false. Because just like that neighbor that they called the inspector on, I believe that was a false report. So if that's a false report, it held them up for construction or building or whatever the case may be, or getting their decks done and having their summer beautiful. It didn't happen for them yet. I'm not sure if it happened now, but this is one of the stories I was told the other day, and I like to share that because we have all our experiences. Some of these checklists I just did is experience from different people, myself, what I had neighbors do wherever I lived in my lifetime. So I put it together with other people. So therefore, you can understand what a nosy neighbor is. And basically, there's going to always be people out there who don't have your best interests. So be alert and don't tell them your life plans or any plans or accomplishments. And don't tell them any of your business whatsoever. You know, it's like nowadays it's not like the friendly days when our parents were friends and had real neighbors that watched their back. So that's sad, but it's true. So whatever, if you don't intend on having a valued friendship with them, um, don't don't give the information. And for those nosy neighbors, if this is you, then if you have nothing better to do, do join the gym. There's sewing classes, cooking classes, go grilling like me. I grill, I mind my business. Just get a life. It's really going to work for you to get a life, because doing what you're doing will not only have you more enemies than ever, but you'll be lonelier than you are now if you're lonely, you know? But get a life. Um, don't hate on other people because you're not happy or you're unhappy with yourself. Self-love goes a long way, but mostly mind your business and stay out of others. And so that's what I felt like stating today on this show, because there's a lot of nosiness going around, and basically even at work. But this subject, you know, in everyday lives actually, but this subject is actually based on neighbors today. So I hope that you like that content I put out there. Please subscribe, like, and share this video with someone that will get a kick out of it. I'm sorry I've been rushing through it because I'm going to be out and about, as I stated. I think I'm going to do an out and about show where when I go live, it's an out and about along with Know Your Truth, Real Talk, and Legal Matters. You know what? That's probably going to happen. Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate that. And Know Your Truth, Real Talk with Judge Desire for Knowledge has just adjourned. And I'll see you next week, Saturday at 3 o'clock, live or taped. You'll know when I put it on. So I'm going to try, like I said, this weekend, if there's no music involved, today and the rest of the weekend, I will definitely post it on YouTube and on my social media live so that you can see it. As long as it's not a copyright issue, I'll be there. All right. And so I wish you a great weekend either way, because I'm sure going to have one. Ciao.